Hi, so in this video I want to talk about something, a concept that is, I think it's a really interesting concept, and I thought I would get some ideas on this. So the concept is of a place where there can be, well, there's all these people, right? There's so many creative and um, great and smart and beautiful and intelligent and really positive people out there, and it's all this potential that is all scattered. And so the concept that I was kind of thinking about is it's not that simple, but I'm going to try to like put it into words. Okay, so it is of in terms of architecture, in what kind of a in what way of um, applying architecture to this could you use this potential in a way that it can be all this scattered potential can synergize with itself in a way that it benefits and it greatly increases the capability of the individual and the capability of this, I guess you could say, of this group or community or society. I guess you could use those words to describe this bunch of all these people who have these positive traits and who have all this potential. So in terms of architecture, if there is a place that um, allows for all these people to have interactions in a way that it's they're not um, they're not small interactions, in a way that it can these interactions can build. And I think the way um, it can really begin to build is if these people um, they live in a way that it's not this architectural landscape is where all these people live together in a way that it all these creative capabilities and um, all this potential can actually um, connect amongst itself. Because what happens is, if these connections are to happen for a really short amount of time, it doesn't provide for enough. um, the process of this growth, it doesn't go, um, I feel it doesn't get as high as it can get. So in this way, it's interesting to think what kind of architecture it would be in this place that allows this kind of communication and this kind of interactions to happen in a way that improves creativity and personal growth and the overall growth of this of these bunch of people. So I think it's an interesting and it's interesting, and there could be so much potential. There could be potential um, in this group in a way that I can't even have all the perspectives, in a way that um, a person who is in that collective, maybe they don't even have the perspectives as to what the entirety of it is capable of as a part, as parts of the whole, and also as a whole, and the effect of the whole on the growth of the individual. And yeah, so it's an interesting way of organization that takes all this scattered potential and gets it to grow and build on itself in a way that and there's so much mundane and boring things in everyday life, in in the usual way of living, that there is so much potential in every moment, but this potential, it can be um, it can be reached if there if this group can see it together. But well, I'm kind of finding it difficult to describe it right now. I don't know, but I think yeah, I think I'm going to talk about it in another part, about a few more things about this. But for the things that I talked about in this, I think it's an interesting way to see what kind of how this would spatially arrange itself in a way that maximizes all these interactions and growth, and in a way that this potential can reach itself in a way that how do I in a way that it can maximize on itself. So it's interesting to think how this landscape would arrange itself, how it would horizontally arrange itself, in vertically arrange itself in all its spatial forms, and in all kinds of in all of its spatial relations, in a way that I think it's an interesting way. But there's also taking into account human nature and what creates a sense of community, and a sense of belonging, and a sense of the individual feeling connected to the group. So that I think, when the individual, I think it kind of goes back and forth. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but so I just think it's an interesting way to think how this would architecturally arrange itself. So those are just a few thoughts on this. And there was one thing, was there anything else? And if we look at a more human way of that people can connect with each other, instead of like what we normally see with apartment buildings and other compartmentalized, and it's a form of machine-like existence, in a way that it maximizes this type of arrangement of people. It maximizes that basic machine potential of a human being. It doesn't really take into account what a human being's human needs are, but rather how a human being functions within this structure, in a way that only the machine abilities of a human beings are required, and it ignores this basic compartmentalized apartment type of architecture. It doesn't take into account the human side of it, just the machine side of in a way that how the machine needs a human to function, but completely ignoring that that is a human being. So in that way, it's interesting to think how to make it more human in a way that it would provide the potential for it would provide the necessary environment for a human growth. Let me just keep it at that, because I'm finding it kind of difficult to put it into words. Okay, so yeah, anyway, those are just a few thoughts. I'm going to think a little bit more about this, and hopefully to create for some more ideas. And yeah, if you have any of your own own thoughts on this, yeah, let me know. So yeah, this was just a video on I think it's an interesting concept and that's why I wanted to make this video, because I think it's a really interesting concept, but there's and it's one of those things where the process is so much more interesting as the end result. It's not just the end result that you're after, it's the whole process of thinking and kind of trying to figure out what in what ways and in what perspectives to think about when it comes to this. And I think that's what makes it such an interesting process to work on, and also the end result, which is such a great, rewarding, the final culmination of it. I'm not sure if it's the final culmination. That's I think that's just the reward in and of itself is a beginning, in a way that yeah, it's just there are new beginnings, and in the process in and of itself is rewarding, and when you finally get the reward, that in and of itself is a new beginning. So yeah, that's why I thought this was like an interesting concept to talk about. And yeah, I'm going to think some more about this. And yeah, so that's where I'm going to end this video, and I'll see you in the next video.